They walked among us, bought coffee, smiled, breathed the same air. And yet, behind those eyes was a number, a silent tally that grew with every life they stole. In tonight's episode, we dive deep into the blood-soaked legacies of the 5 most prolific serial killers in human history. Men who didn't just kill. They hunted, they calculated, and in many cases, they vanished before justice could ever catch up. But what does it take to extinguish dozens, sometimes hundreds of lives without remorse? How does a human being become a predator of their own kind? This is Hauntress, and this is the list of the most ruthless serial killers in history. Each name you're about to hear left behind a trail of blood, fear, and unanswered questions. And once you learn what they did, you'll never look at a stranger the same way again.
Hauntress. The truth hides in the dark.
Number 5. They came to Chicago full of dreams, men and women from all across the country, lured by the promise of the 1893 World Fair, an explosion of light, invention, and spectacle in a growing nation hungry for wonder. But for some, Chicago would be the last thing they'd ever see. Because hidden behind the fair's shining marvels was something monstrous. A building that looked just like any other. 3 stories of brick and ambition sat quietly on the corner of Inglewood. It had a pharmacy, rooms for rent, and long, winding hallways that went nowhere. Doors that opened to brick walls, stairs that led to nothing, rooms without windows, and a basement that would make even the strongest men weep. People came in, but they didn't come out. The man who designed this place wasn't just a landlord. He wasn't just a businessman. He was a predator in a tailored suit. His name, Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, better known as H.H. Holmes, America's first serial killer. Holmes constructed what would later be called the Murder Castle. Soundproof rooms, gas lines, secret chutes to the basement, vats of acid, furnaces, bones. He confessed to 27 murders, but many believe he killed over 200. He was caught, tried, and hanged in 1896. And yet, even in death, he sought control. He demanded his body be buried in cement so it could never be touched. Not just a killer, but a designer of death. Number 4. In the heart of Lahore, Pakistan, a quiet man lived in a modest home. He didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he was polite, invisible. Until one day he wrote a letter and confessed to killing 100 children. His method was terrifying in its calm precision. He lured street children into his home, and he ended their lives silently. then erased all traces, destroying their bodies in acid. And then he told the world. This was not a cry for help, it was vengeance. He said, against a system that ignored his own pain. His name was Javed Iqbal. He kept detailed records, names, ages, photos. He admitted everything, led police to evidence. He said he made a promise to kill 100 and not one more. He was sentenced to death and to be executed in the same way he killed others. But before it could happen, he was found dead in his cell. Suicide or justice from another hand? A man who murdered 100 children, not in rage, but as a message.
Number 3. What you've heard so far is horrifying, but the next 3 names take us to a realm far beyond cruelty. These are not just killers, they are machines of death, soulless, insatiable, psychologically broken in ways most of us can't begin to understand. The body counts, they don't just cross 100, they drown in it. So brace yourself.
He was a doctor, a man sworn to protect life. People trusted him with their final moments and never knew he was choosing when those moments would come. For over 2 decades in the UK, elderly patients began to die quietly under his care. It seemed natural, expected, until families asked questions and investigators started digging. What they uncovered was chilling. Harold Shipman had been administering fatal doses to his patients, signing their death certificates himself and destroying evidence. He didn't murder out of desperation. He didn't do it for money. He did it because he could. He was convicted of 15 murders, but further investigations estimate that the real number is closer to 250, possibly more. He was sentenced to life, but in 2004, he was found dead in his cell, hanged. A final act of control. Not just a killer, but a betrayal of the very idea of trust.
Number 2.
In the mountains of South America, children vanished. They weren't taken by war or famine. They were taken by a man who hunted quietly and invisibly across Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. Pedro Alonso Lopez didn't just kill. He prowled, he waited, he took children, mainly girls, then left behind shallow graves and unanswered screams. He confessed to killing more than 300 victims, led police to 53 bodies, spoke without remorse. Convicted of 110 murders in Ecuador, sentenced to 16 years, released after 14. Later, he was declared insane in Colombia and then vanished. To this day, no one knows where he is. He may still be alive. He may still be free. A predator in the mountains, a name that chills the air, a ghost with blood on his hands.
Number 1.
This is not fiction. This is not a myth. This is a man who brought an entire country to its knees. He wore glasses. He spoke softly. He pretended to care. And he left a trail of horror that may never be fully known. Luis Alfredo Garavito, known as the Beast, confessed to the murder of 172 children across Colombia. Investigators believe the true number may exceed 300. He mapped his crimes, detailed his methods, described it all. He was sentenced to 1,853 years, but under Colombian law, he could only serve 40. Later, he was eligible for early release. Public outrage erupted, but in 2023, he died in prison. No punishment could match the weight of his crimes. He was more than a serial killer. He was a walking nightmare. A human catastrophe that wore a face of trust. We often think of evil as something distant. A shadow in the woods, a figure in a nightmare, a story that happens to someone else. But the truth is far more unsettling. Evil doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it smiles. And sometimes it wears the face of someone that's trusted, respected, and even loved. These men didn't just take lives. They took the illusion of safety. They proved that monsters don't crawl out of storybooks. They walk among us, unnoticed until it's too late. So before you turn away from this video and go back to the light, ask yourself something. How well do you really know the people around you? The things we fear don't sleep. They wait, watching, whispering, wondering who will listen next. So keep your lights low and your mind open. I'm Hauntress, and I'll see you in the next shadow.